Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. Today, the 11th day, January 2025. 97,100 is where we are. We are 2,900 short of 100,000 mark to cross to that 100,000 mark. Kindly confirm your subscription, because subscribe to this channel. Subscription is absolutely free. Today is Saturday. Happy Sabbath to our SDA sisters and brothers. And I hope you will watch our channel. Yes, I hope you really support our channel. And thank you very much for your support. Team Mombasa. Special shout out to Ann Bakari. Yes, Ann Bakari, thank you. Special shout out to you for your good input. And really a very special shout out to special team behind this channel that help us also do research. Yeah, I have Sylvester here. Yeah, I have Daniel on the other end, and special shout out to that team. The complex plan of getting Kenyan ambassador in Ghana exposes the behind the scene intrigues of what is happening in the foreign affairs docket. And today, for the first time, I'm going to explain why the ex-ICT CS Margaret Ndungu declined the cabinet offer. The fights, the tenure, professional misfit, and what about this position of ambassador? Why are politicians declining it? So I have an interesting podcast for you. Make sure you watch to the end. When Margaret Ndungu Nyambura was appointed as the ICT CS in August last year after Gen Z protest, he was approached to take over that position because she was representing Nakuru. She comes from Bahati constituency in Nakuru, and Ruto needed to get someone from Nakuru because he had just dismissed Water CS Zakaria Njeru, who was the face of Nakuru, who was the only cabinet coming from Nakuru. So she was actually picked, number one, on that optics. Number two, when the cabinet was reconstituted, some MPs were also told to forward names. And it's also understood that probably her name could have also been forwarded under the blessings of Rigathi Gachagua. And that is why the first cabinet reshuffle, after Rigathi impeachment, she's been shown the door. Now, Margaret Ndungu learned her dismissal in media just like me and you, or you and I. Without being consulted about such a move, even the subsequent assignment to Ghana as the Kenyan High Commissioner, she also received that information in media just like us. And this opens a Pandora box on the modus operandi of the Kenya Kwanza administration. I saw an attempt by Nelson Koech when he was actually making the statement about Margaret declining that position, apportioning a blame on Musalia Mudavadi and Felix Kosgei for not consulting.
She further says that to save the precious time of the important parliamentary business as per the provisions of the Act aforementioned, kindly take note that this letter serves as a notice not to appear. Thank you for invitation and follow-up.
This is the second time an ambassadorial nominee to Ghana has declined the position after West Mugirango MP Vincent Mogaka rejected President Ruto's appointment. National Assembly Defense and Foreign Relations Committee Chairperson Nelson Koech urged the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to conduct due diligence on candidates to avoid embarrassments.
We put notice to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Head of Public Service that they should do their due diligence in future when doing this appointment. There are so many Kenyans who are deserving these appointments. The picking of names of individuals who probably might not have been consulted or who have no interest to represent our country is not only an embarrassment to the country, but an embarrassment to the head of state.
Now, this statement confirms what we are saying here, that she was not consulted. But I want us to look at it differently. Do you want to convince me that someone who was in cabinet is being reassigned as an ambassador and the president, William Ruto, doesn't know? Nelson Koech he actually wants it to be seen like it is not Ruto who appointed these ambassadors. It was actually Mudavadi and Koech and Mudavadi and Kosgei, the head of public service. That is not absolutely true. While the constitution mandates the foreign affairs and that docket falls under public service, but these are high profile appointments that the president must be aware of. So if there's someone even to consult, it was decorum and decent for the president to pick up his call and maybe reach out to Margaret Ndungu. Now we understand the way she was also dismissed without notice, without even being told, is something that shocked her circle. Margaret is also reported to have had a rough tenure in the ICT docket handling Ruto handlers during a tenure who are actually running cartels running through the ministries. The hawk-eyed, privileged, blue-eyed boys or men that take over the ministries. If there is a tender, you will always see them hovering around. For any activity, even money to be allocated to a ministry, you have to lobby as a CS, you have to lobby through some corridor so that your ministry and state departments under that ministry is given. So it's also reported that her work, her tenure in that docket was not very smooth. And you would understand the circumstances under which they came to power. And if it was someone that was already brought by Rigathi, then she was going through troubles, the same troubles that Rigathi was to undergo. So that confirms part of her decision to decline the job offer. But then, I want us to look at an interesting coincidence. Let's look at this Ghana job. The ex-CS Margaret Ndungu is declining it, but she's not the first one. In April 2024, former Mugirango West MP Vincent Kemosi declined his nomination as an ambassador to Ghana, citing personal reasons. I don't know why when people decline jobs, they cite personal reasons, of course, because these are national jobs, so it is personal reasons that can make you not to take up those jobs. And he declined, it was the same job in Ghana that Vincent Kemosi declined. But in an interesting tweet, in an interesting turn, he was later reappointed by the president despite of rejecting the offer. And I want you to look at this screenshot. If you can go and search for this story. Ruto appoints ambassador nominee Vincent Mogaka despite rejecting the job offer. He rejected the job offer, did not even go for the interview for the vetting panel in parliament, but when the Gazette notice came out, his name was there. But then what happened later is he never went to Ghana. He declined the job that way. Despite of the lobbying from the president's team for him to take the job, he declined and never went. And so since April, the ambassador, Kenya was yet to get ambassador in Ghana. I understand after the first cabinet batch was reshuffled, there was also an attempt to appoint someone saying Aisha Jumwa, Kuria, and some other fellows to those positions, but they did not take, or rather they declined. And of course, most of those who are fronted for this Ghana position were actually ex-CSS that were harboring political ambitions. Someone like Aisha Jumwa wants to be the governor in Kilifi. So if she's out of the country in Ghana, that means she's out of the political touch. Someone like Moses Kuria still harbor political ambitions in Kiambu. So these are some of the complex issues why it became so difficult even to reassign. So the question that we should also ask, if it is becoming difficult for the president to reassign now, to assign an ambassador there, who was the ambassador before and what happened? That will be interesting. Former President Uhuru Kenyatta appointed Eliphas Barin in 2020, a year after he got a job in the Foreign Affairs docket. So in 2020, Uhuru Kenyatta appointed Eliphas Barin to be ambassador in Ghana. He served for 4 years until April 2024. I was so curious because the reason why I was fighting it, because I wanted to know. So the previous ambassador alienda wapi? Now let me tell you what happened. So in 2024, Eliphas Barin, in 2024 April, Eliphas Barin was recalled back, or rather he finished his tenure and came back to Nairobi. He was not reappointed to any ambassador position, but he took a director job at the Office of Foreign Affairs. I was so curious about this part, and I just want you to look at this. This was the photo. If you look at this photo, this was the photo when he was taking over that docket last year in April. This is the position he took. Ambassador Eliphas Barin has officially taken over the political and diplomatic affairs as the Director General. In a brief handover ceremony, Ambassador Lucy Kirutu, who has held the position in an acting capacity, welcomed Barin and wished him success in his new role. So, can you see, from being an ambassador in Ghana, coming back in the country and appointed a Director General based at the Foreign Affairs Office. Do you look at it and see that probably the job in Ghana was not so much promising? Probably was idling in Ghana. And look at how he was able to come back. Asema, Eric, kuliko kuka ambassador in Ghana, let me come back and be a Director General in the Foreign Affairs docket. Even though I know there is a bit of difference because there is a budget this side that could be huge than the other one. Kenya is yet to get a suitable candidate since Ambassador Alvin Barin was recalled back in the country. I've looked at what is at stake. Kenya and Ghana partner in trade, agriculture, and energy. They are all members of Commonwealth Nations, AU Group of 77, and non-aligned movement. Now, something that you also need to notice this, Ndungu was representing Nakuru. Nakuru, after Zakaria Njeri was dismissed, so when she was kicked out, that is why Lee Kinyanjui has been picked to replace her, because Lee Kinyanjui then represents Nakuru. It is the same way the agriculture CS Karanja was actually representing Moses Kuria, who was the cabinet member from Kiambu, and so she was picked, and after he was picked, and after he's dismissed, that is why Kabogo has been given that position. If you look at her profile, she doesn't have a political ambitions. I'm not seeing her in politics. But before she was picked to cabinet, she was from a private sector, a senior research manager at Global Digital Inclusion. This means, if you look at her profile, she doesn't have the competencies in the foreign affairs area. Now, when declining position, there is something I noticed that Josephat Karanja said. I don't know whether the name is Josephat, but Karanja, I remember the one named Karanja, the former agriculture CS who has been appointed to be ambassador in Brazil. He says he doesn't want to doubt the president because the president is appointing authority, but he believes that appointment was not based that reappointment, or rather him dismissed from cabinet, was not based on competence.
Immediate former Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Dr. Andrew Karanja, nominated to represent Kenya in Brazil, and former Youth and Sports Cabinet Secretary Ababu Namwamba attempted to convince the MPs that their nomination to ambassadorial positions was not a demotion, but rather a reassignment.
I don't want to second guess His Excellency the President. He has many considerations why he have to make his cabinet. I know it was not about performance. It is about maybe other considerations. But all said, I would like to say that His Excellency the President, you don't question his appointing authority, and so you agree to what he suggests to you. And I'm very thankful that despite my short tenure, he found it even fit to give me another responsibility.
So I just wanted to find out his motivation in this particular job, given the fact that this looks more like a demotion, like a climb down. And also in terms of conflict of interest, in the sense that he's been the boss of many of the diplomatic staff.
Would I consider being handed an assignment to represent Kenya in that space a demotion? No. I would consider it a reassignment to a different role, a different responsibility. I believe I'm almost tailor-made for this position, given my learning, my intellectual capacity, my experience, my exposure.
Now that is it. Even this reappointment to Huyu Kuleka Huyu, it was not based, dismissal was not based on the fact that you missed. But sometimes it kills people's reputation. You hurt people. You go to cabinet, 6 months, you've left, and then you're taken an ambassador. So probably he's waiting. So after being ambassador in Ghana, how about if I'm recalled the next day? Okay, where do I head? Does it add into my professional career? Probably there are a lot of questions in it. But then looking at all this situation, I've narrowed down to this 4 reasons as to why this Margaret Ndungu declined this position. This was a protest discomfort, a protest of discomfort, and a message that I no longer want to work with President Ruto. This to me is what I see. Look at you being dismissed, you're not notified. You being appointed to a cabinet position, you're not notified. You know, sometimes leaders, the politicians, people that have been in these political benches do believe that some members of the public are very anxious or rather excited about state appointments. But you will know that nowadays, I have some few people in some state corporations. You're given a job in a state corporation. I saw Millicent Omanga was given some job and she declined. She said, I don't want. Why? You don't just take, you suddenly look at, yes, I've been given a name as chairperson of XYZ, but then what is in it? Does it add? There are some people that look at their work. So I think Margaret wanted to send a message to the president that the 6 months that I've worked with you is enough. I no longer want to work with you. That to me is one of the messages is sending. The second issue is this insecurity of tenure. Since appointments are tweaked, are changed, they're not based on meritocracy. It is not on how I'm going to help you achieve the bottom-up economic model, but it's about dictating your way. In fact, let me ask you something. Do you realize that this Margaret Nyakango, I keep on saying Nyakango. Nyakango is control of budget, but I think I'm used to that. This Margaret Nyambura there is this docket that Nani has been given, Itubi has been given, I don't know, digital and I don't know, digital economy and something on special programs or something. So you tend to figure out, and some reports were that those are some of the clashing points. It was not who do I work with and what about it. So the insecurity of tenure is here. If you're given a cabinet position in 6 months, you're dismissed. Where is the guarantee that you're going to be an ambassador for even 1 year? And I think he's realized that she rather goes back to her private practice, private work, instead of the public jobs, instead of the public service. Because the public service, by the way, someone will tell you, the public service is not for the weak. The public service is for the strong fellows. If you're weak, you cannot. Kuna time mtu direct na kwambia wewe toka hapo, mimi nataka kwa hiyo seat yako. So the public service, public officers is not for the weak. I think she's also seeing the issue of insecurity of tenure, and that is going to work. You know, this changes not because someone has failed. You just changed because of politics. For example, the latest cabinet reshuffle where these guys are being removed was for that broad-based thing. And then you wonder, broad-based. Margaret is also from Nakuru. Margaret is also a Kikuyu. So, but because you want Lee Kenyan is popular and someone who is known, I'll be able to grab the headlines of bringing Kikuyus. The other issue is professional, and the other one thing I can also see, the working condition in the Ghana office is not very promising. And that, why am I saying this? How is it that Barin was moved? I'm very sure, probably Ruto even weighed the options of increasing or rather giving him his lot. But again, one of the reasons why he was brought back could be that because he was Uhuru appointee, so he has to be demoted. Probably, that is the reason. Then I want to get the person of my choice. But could be that there is some intel, some information that the consulate in Ghana is going through tough conditions. Could be some sort of underfunding, delayed salaries, the poor state of the office, or rather even the way that there is a problem in it. It cannot be a coincidence that everyone, when appointed to that Ghana ambassador job, declines it. And lastly, Margaret could have thought and just interrogated and realized, look at this. This is not going to be, this is not going to add into my CV. This is not really one thing. This is not what I want. And could just decide in her grounds. Probably ambassadors' jobs, you really need to deeply consult, because remember, it involves leaving the country. Probably you need to live with your children. They are they're already in school, you've enrolled them in school, then you need to live with them and all that. It's normally very hectic. I have friends who are in that space, and you can see the kind of hassle that they go through. Nenda, 3 years you are there, then you come back, you know, you need to transfer children, the culture shock and all that. You look at the education in Ghana, probably the structure in Ghana and what is here. You have to make a lot of considerations. So sometimes it doesn't work. Probably your spouse is also uncomfortable with it. So I think on this one, it borders so many theories. But again, the tough working relationship with the president handlers during his time, her time in that office, is also largely to blame. Thank you.